All right, next is transforming prosperity into the path. In our 37 practices of a bodhisattva, earlier we talked about transforming adversity into the path. Today we will discuss transforming prosperity into the path. Some of us might think, when all our endeavors are thriving and everything is going well, there's no need to transform anything into the path at that time, right? Actually, whether it's suffering that needs to be transformed into the path, or prosperity, having fame, status, wealth, or talent, at such times it also needs to be transformed into the path. This may actually be the greatest enemy of spiritual practice. Next it says, when your good name spreads far and wide, you are respected by others, and you gain wealth like the learned ones. Yet you see that worldly fortune has no real meaning, and remain completely free of arrogance. This is the practice of a bodhisattva. If you already possess noble birth, for example, if you are of royal lineage, or if you come from a particularly wealthy family, like the so-called second-generation rich, or second-generation officials, and so on, or if you have dignified and attractive features, if you are a bit better looking than others, you may also become very arrogant. You might feel that no one is as good as you. And if you have a prominent status, even just a little bit of status. The other day, a Khenpo said to me, some of the monastics here, who have never had any status before, as soon as they become a steward, even for a short while, they feel as if they've ascended to the heavens. But actually, being a steward is not something people are eager to do. Sometimes it's just for the sake of the Sangha. But status, sometimes it really makes people intoxicated. If you have status like being a bureau chief or a county head, a section chief or a mayor, not to mention a municipal party secretary, or being an abbot or a chant leader, or any such esteemed position, even a little bit of elevated status can make you feel especially happy and content. Just joking, of course. When I see the chant leader, I make a comment and he gets a little embarrassed. No, actually, the chant leader is not arrogant. He's really fine. And then there's wealth, having a bit of money, some savings. Anyone who dresses a little better. This is just how people in the world are. If you have any of these things, even the way you walk is different. Really, others can see it at a glance. After all, we're all just people, right? Because this person has a bit of money, he becomes very arrogant. This person is arrogant because he has a bit of status. Or it seems like this person is arrogant for some other reason. Everyone is very clear about it. They feel like everything about themselves is perfect, and their reputation spreads far and wide to all directions. They are respected by others. Everyone honors and admires them. And they have gained wealth like Vaisravana, the heavenly king of abundant hearing. Vaisravana is the wealthiest of all, even richer than Jack Ma. Though nowadays it seems you don't hear much about Jack Ma anymore. However, when you look at it, even if you have fame and wealth and all that, you should realize that all worldly merits and virtues are as fleeting and unstable as lightning. And all the wealth in the world is as unstable as dewdrops on the tip of grass. All these things in the world are like bubbles in water, completely insubstantial, or like a snake's shed skin, utterly meaningless. All of it must be abandoned. There should not be the slightest sense of pride or self-satisfaction. This is the way for all bodhisattvas to transform prosperity into a means for the path. Everything and anything we possess, people in the world truly. Even if they just buy a nice car, they'll show it off in front of many people, constantly talking about it. If they have a bit of knowledge, they'll also talk about it in front of others. Even if they're wearing nice clothes, they'll mention it to others as well. When we were young, we were the same way. If we could buy a good pair of pants, we'd want to show them off in front of many people, even just a little bit. Back then, money was scarce, so we'd stuff some paper into our wallets to make them look full, and then act like we were rich in front of others. But in reality, we didn't have any money. So people who are actually wealthy usually pretend they aren't, while those without money pretend to be rich. All of these things, in fact, everything in this world is impermanent and constantly changing. Just like bubbles or lightning, it's really like that. Those who were especially wealthy just a few years ago, including people we often hear about, what did they become in the blink of an eye? Everyone is well aware of this. This is what the Buddhist scriptures say. Do not give rise to the mindset of I am superior or I am better than others. This is the root of arrogance and heedlessness. Do not harbor arrogance, otherwise an arrogant mindset is actually the fundamental cause of heedlessness. The letter to a friend also says caste and also great beauty and extensive learning and vibrant youth and also significant power. These are all called arrogance. We should treat them as if they were our enemies. In fact, as a monastic, especially as a practitioner, we really shouldn't care about these things. Caste, beauty, talent, and being young, if you are a bit young yourself, and then bully some elderly people. That is also not good. When you have a bit of power, it is also unreasonable to offend many people. Indeed, in Tibet we have a saying, an old dog cannot live for 9 years because it becomes an enemy to the world. A typical house dog bites everyone. And in the end, it itself cannot live past 9 years old. It will die at 9 years old. During this time, it has made enemies with many people. This is very unreasonable. Whether you have the power to truly empower yourself or to truly make a difference, or you have a bit of wealth, or you have anything at all, you shouldn't act like this. In the way of the Bodhisattva, it is also said, those who become arrogant out of pride will fall into the lower realms. Losing the joys of the human world, they become servants eating others' leftovers. Arrogant people ultimately fall into the lower realms, and after the joys of the human world disappear, they all end up as servants, which is truly pitiful. When you are healthy and free from illness, enjoying abundance, with noble birth, good looks, wisdom, and kindness, and all these virtues are complete, your body and mind are extremely happy. At such times you feel very joyful, both physically and mentally. But if you become arrogant and self-satisfied because of this, looking down on others, and want to do all sorts of unlawful things, or act however you please, then in this life you will experience the faults and suffering of unrestrained indulgence. Some people have opportunities themselves. We see that some people around leaders, when they get even a little opportunity themselves, they act that way with many people. But after a while, when the leader changes, they end up in a very pitiful situation themselves. At our age, we've seen this happen too many times. Whenever someone gets a bit arrogant, after some considerable amount of time, such unfortunate people really do not end up well at all. So, whether it is your outward appearance, your noble birth, or your profound wisdom, or what you consider to be your kindness and so on, if you feel especially happy in body and mind because of these, and start to look down on others because of this, then in the end, what it brings is actually suffering. In future lives, you will also fall into unfortunate realms, being reborn into a lowly caste and so on. Thus you ruin both this life and the next. Truly, in the jewel garland, you see, it says this, even if you are as wealthy as a god, never become arrogant. This is something I really like. Earlier it was said that even if you become like a hungry ghost, you shouldn't lose heart, right? Nagarjuna Bodhisattva really put it well. Sometimes we ourselves seem especially pitiful at the lowest point in our lives, but even then it's not hopeless. Don't be too discouraged. Sometimes it seems like we are as wealthy as celestial beings, with all our glory and riches like the gods. But at that time, you also shouldn't be too arrogant. Otherwise, after a while, isn't it like in our Tibetan region, there was a singer named Dabai, and later on his songs weren't that good anymore, right? So a lot of people teased him, saying, weren't you really good at singing before? Now you're not good anymore. You've already fallen from your peak. He said, oh, it's fine. Even airplanes that fly so high up in the sky can also fall down. So what if I'm just a small singer like Dabai? Right now, it's just that my voice isn't as good as before, that's all. And I just love to drink every day, that's all. He said it like that. So, whatever situation we are in, everything is impermanent. In the way of the Bodhisattva, it also says, now let go of pride and willingly serve as a servant to all beings. All the perfections of the Dharma and the world should become favorable conditions for our own practice, and we should also wish for others to have the same. This is how we should think. For now, do our utmost and try every possible way to benefit others, and subdue arrogance and pride and so on. See yourself as the lowest servant of all sentient beings, and hold all beings high and low in the highest regard. Toward everyone, no matter their status, we must maintain a respectful attitude. Those who truly practice well, their actions make it evident. Venerable Atisha also personally said this. Whenever pride arises at that moment, it must be cut off. No matter who you are, if you notice even a bit of arrogance in yourself, you should immediately eliminate that arrogance. It is also said, calm down your self-satisfaction and the arrogance of thinking you are above everyone else. You must become peaceful and gentle and give rise to compassion for all those below you, while completely eliminating any tendency to look down upon or to insult others. Sometimes, when we ourselves possess even a little bit of favorable conditions or advantages, we often tend to belittle, disparage, or even dismiss others without truly understanding their circumstances, whether in our actions, words, or mindset. If we want to protect sentient beings, in fact, this is the most important matter for Mahayana practitioners. It is the most important thing of all. Venerable Jodumpa also said, no matter how much merit you possess yourself, you must never look down on or underestimate others, no matter how great your own merit may be. Truly, just like Jodumpa, or like His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok, in their words, their accomplishments in practice are extremely, extremely high. But towards others, even if it is just a dog, they always show great respect and care. We should have this kind of caring heart toward everyone. This is truly the conduct of Mahayana Buddhism. Venerable Potowa also once said, a bodhisattva needs to abandon arrogance and remain humble, showing great compassion and respect for all sentient beings. Although no one had greater merit than Atisha, he would not even mistreat a small dog, demonstrating his profound compassion. This is what I was just thinking in my heart. If it were like His Holiness, or rather in our contemporary times, I have interacted with all kinds of people as well, but truly people with such a strong altruistic mind, like His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok, who was accomplished in both Sutra and Tantra, and who perfected all worldly and transcendental teachings, are extremely rare to encounter in one's lifetime. But as for him, not to mention humans, even an animal, he would not even step on or harm a single mouse. With such a mind, what arrogance could we possibly have, whether compared to those great monks and masters, or to the great figures of the world? We probably don't even possess 1%, or even 1/10,000th of their merit. So whenever we develop arrogance, it's about some particular skill or strength we have. We should also recall these teachings. Potowa Geshe also said, others are the object of my compassion. I rejoice and remain constantly. Other sentient beings serve as the objects that give rise to my compassion. As a result, I am often in a state of joy. They possess the Dharma, but others do not. I hope to rely on sentient beings to cultivate qualities like compassion and loving kindness. But elsewhere, these cannot be found. In other places, it may be impossible to find them. Only with sentient beings can we accomplish the Six Paramitas. Other things like stones and wood simply cannot serve as objects for practicing patience. Objects of compassion and loving kindness certainly cannot be these things. Karupa Geshe also said, do not seek high and virtuous positions. Do not strive to attain noble or excellent status. One should remain in a humble and lowly position. Do not always try to elevate yourself. Instead, keep a low profile and remain unassuming. Those individuals who are arrogant will not gain any true merit. Therefore, it is important to let go of your pride and stay humble. Truly, after this teaching is finished, everyone, do we have any arrogant people among us here? Compared to worldly people, we are still doing okay. But whenever we have even a little bit of talent or skill, we still tend to become a bit arrogant. This includes Kenpos, Kenmos, and some others as well. Indeed, when compared with others, if we have even a slight advantage or special ability, arrogance is likely to arise. I don't know if I myself have it, maybe I do. Because arrogance is something that is usually hard for oneself to notice. Others can see it clearly. Others can especially see it very easily. But as for ourselves, we tend to think that we are pretty good. Generally, arrogance and jealousy are very hard for us to recognize in ourselves. But others are usually able to see them. Venerable Langri Tangpa also said, may I, whenever I interact with anyone, regard myself as the lowest among all, and from the depths of my heart sincerely respect and cherish others. Moreover, we should learn from the great masters and eminent monks of the past. Their stories include practicing while living in humble positions and wearing tattered clothes. These great masters and eminent monks of the past were all especially low-key. Their clothing was also extremely simple. They would wear the same garment for many, many years. For example, Master Yingguang and Venerable Longchenpa, including also Mipham Rinpoche, they were not like us worldly people, who, when we get a new piece of clothing, always want to show it off to everyone. But it seems that, in this regard, we are actually a little bit better. When it comes to new clothes, many people don't even dare to wear them. They keep wearing old clothes all the time. And then after wearing old clothes, they don't wash them. If you don't wash them, the people around you will find it very smelly. So it's really important, especially for the men, to make sure to wash your body and your clothes. Otherwise, you might not have much attachment yourself, and you might even feel that your own smell is fine. Maybe that's the case. But the people around you, especially if you're among the monastic community, even if just one person's feet aren't washed, or if their socks or clothes aren't washed, after a few days, clothes usually start to smell. We are beings of the desire realm, not celestial beings. If we were celestial beings, even if we wore the same clothes for a long time, they wouldn't get dirty at all. So for us, even if you might be like a yogi with no attachments at all, if you're worried that your body might smell when interacting with others, it might not be very appropriate if your body has an odor. So you should take care of yourself. Sometimes people deliberately dress in shabby clothes to appear humble, wearing tattered and worn-out garments on purpose, but that's really unnecessary. Nowadays, buying a piece of clothing is really not a problem at all. If you can afford to buy 8 gin of butter, then buying a piece of clothing is even less of an issue. Let's not call him 8 gin monk. It is also said, "May the merit of peace and joy be dedicated to all beings." Here you can also understand what is meant by transforming suffering and happiness into the path. As it is said, if you understand the principle of transforming happiness into the path, this is the ultimate way to suppress pleasure. If you know how to transform pleasure into a tool for the path, then this is the best method to restrain pleasure. I'll check the Tibetan version later, as it seems a bit. When encountering happiness, it should not become a cause for arrogance or complacency, but rather be regarded as a great pressure or responsibility. And in this way, it becomes an aid to the Dharma. It could be said that understanding how to transform happiness into the path is actually also a way to subdue happiness. It seems that this part is a little bit unclear. I'll check the Tibetan version later. Thogme Sangpo also said that for all practitioners, whether we possess wisdom, discipline, or a virtuous character, or any other qualities, if we truly think of ourselves as superior to other people in any way, or believe we are better than others, and to look down upon those individuals who are truly inferior to us, purely out of a sense of arrogance and self-importance, to look down on those below us, to compete with those equal to us, and to be jealous of those above us, then we cannot truly grasp the essence of the Dharma. If, just as His Holiness said, we often bully those who are beneath us, constantly compete with our peers, and feel jealous of those above us, then it shows that our practice has not been successful. Therefore, no matter whom we interact with, it is important to respect those of higher, middle, and lower status. And he himself also practiced in this way. In short, whether things are flourishing, declining, joyful, or painful, because this is a summary text, we must recognize all of it as being like a dream or an illusion. When we are happy, we should endure happiness. When we are in pain, we should bear the suffering. We must be able to withstand suffering. This is how we as people should be. When we experience even a little bit of happiness, we immediately become complacent or especially arrogant, extremely happy, even with just a little bit of joy. But when we experience even a little bit of suffering, we become fragile and timid. If that's the case, then it's unreasonable. We should be able to endure happiness when we're happy, and also endure suffering when we're in pain. Otherwise, when we encounter even a little bit of happiness, it becomes the cause for arrogance to arise. You see, it's already mentioned here that when we suffer even a little bit of pain, consequently, it becomes the primary cause for profound timidity and overwhelming fear, deeply affecting one's resolve. This state of being so inconsistently hot and cold, demonstrating a complete and utter lack of sustained endurance or perseverance, is simply not acceptable. Indeed, these practices, we may be able to talk about them in theory, but whether we can actually put them into practice, that's something everyone needs to see for themselves. If we can truly learn this section well, there will definitely be times of happiness in our lives, and also times of suffering. Just like the weather, there are hot days and cold days. But at such times, if someone is truly a steady practitioner, they'll think, oh, that's just how worldly phenomena are. Today I'm very happy, today I'm suffering a lot. And as circumstances and conditions change, one is also able to adjust their mindset very well. For example, Geshe Potoa also said, even if you pass through as many as 10 cities and still don't receive any alms or offerings, you shouldn't become discouraged. And even if gain and respect come your way, you shouldn't become overly joyful or attached. You see, this is a very important key point. 10 cities, going everywhere to beg alms, city by city, having passed through 10 cities. If we passed through 10 cities and still hadn't received alms, we might feel extremely miserable. But actually, there's no need to feel miserable, because when the right conditions aren't present in the world, anything can happen. Sometimes, whether it's food, wealth, fame, health, and so on, all the worldly fortunes and prosperity, if they come to you naturally, you shouldn't become particularly attached to them. Just like the dewdrops on the tips of grass we mentioned earlier, whether it's lightning or bubbles, it doesn't really matter. That's the nature of this world. The other day when we visited some temples, some people said, wow, this is great. In Patrul Rinpoche's Words of My Perfect Teacher, it says, because of our limited knowledge and experience, when we encounter someone with a bit of wealth, we exclaim, wow, they're so rich. When we see a nice car, we say, wow, this car is amazing. If someone looks a bit cleaner than usual, wow, this person is so beautiful. We tend to admire all the worldly glory and wealth. We develop a sense of envy. But actually, this is because we don't understand the true nature of all phenomena. If we really observe carefully, we'll see that all these things are impermanent and fleeting. There's really nothing worth being greedy for, and nothing truly worth envying. When we are especially down or suffering deeply, if we truly have the strength of mind, we can also take this suffering as a support for our spiritual practice. Right now, I am suffering the most. Everyone is bullying me. Everyone is slandering me. Everyone is abandoning me. Oh, then this is the time for me to truly practice. I should devote myself to spiritual cultivation. As for worldly glory and wealth, I have already sought what I needed to seek, and that's enough. In the past, many great masters, when they contracted leprosy, this illness ultimately became the cause for their spiritual accomplishment. So some of us have already experienced heartbreak, lost our jobs, and lost all sorts of things we once had. But this is because there were conditions for them before, and now those conditions no longer exist. There's really nothing to be sad about, and being sad is of no use anyway, so we should understand these principles ourselves. There's also Chakawa Geshe, who said we should accept and endure the two experiences. The two experiences refer to suffering and happiness. Whether it's happiness or suffering, you should learn to endure them. The ornament of the Mahayana Sutras also says this: whether things succeed or fail, there is no fear of confusion or suffering. See phenomena as illusions, see life as entering a garden. Whether things succeed or fail, there is no fear of confusion or suffering. It's mentioned in there, isn't it? When the time comes, you realize that all phenomena are like dreams and illusions. If you look at the cycle of birth and death, samsara, you see entering a garden. This realization of a bodhisattva who has attained a certain level, at this point, whether things succeed or not, afflictions and suffering hold no fear for them. In fact, this is a very joyful thing. But we don't know when we will reach such a state. No matter what it is, whether it succeeds or not, these things, to you, are like having a son in a dream, and then he dies. But when you wake up, all of these are neither beneficial nor harmful to you. There is really nothing in this whole world. This is a level of spiritual practice for us. Right now it might be a bit difficult. But if you understand the principle, then in the future, when it truly happens to you, when you have wealth and prosperity, you shouldn't be too attached to it. Don't look down on others or belittle them. Don't do that. It's really nothing special. Indeed, since ancient times, whether emperors and generals or eminent monks and great masters or any kind of great person has appeared before. But in the end, they all meet the same fate, death. The most pitiful and most miserable people in the world, even these people, in the end, some of them leave as well. Some don't leave and they just keep on living as usual. It's all the same. So when it comes time to leave this world, kings and beggars walk the same path. The rich and the poor take the same road too. Neither of them even has the right to wear a single piece of clothing. So I think that understanding the true nature of all phenomena in this world might be very helpful for one's own spiritual practice. So let's stop here for today. Next, turning anger into a path of practice and turning greed into a path of practice. Actually, if you study the 37 practices of a bodhisattva, well, just that one text is enough. You don't need anything else. Just study the 37 practices of a bodhisattva thoroughly, and that's sufficient.
Sonandai Tamsa Rubanya Tonani Jana Pasi Jirgana Jirano Chupai Chupun Sonen Droa
Bandangara Badma Sodargye Bandangara Badma Sodargye Bandangara Badma Sodargye